I'm now joined by a member of the Israeli parliament from the ruling Likud party, Yehudah Glick. Yehudah, thank you very much for coming on The Spin. It was a pleasure to have you.
It's always great to be here.
So we were talking before with my guests about what happened on the northern border between Iran and Israel over the skies of Syria and Israel. What do you make of this recent escalation that we're seeing?
It's a development. Israel is now determined and cut and clear. We're not playing games with our security, and we're not even going to hide about it. We want the world to understand that we're going to protect our borders, and even if it demands us to go and to attack Iran, Syria, and the world understands it. Even Russia, who has its interests in Syria, understands that Israel is not going to tolerate anybody, not even the big Iran, trying to threaten our security.
Right.
And our citizens on the northern border and all the citizens of the state of Israel are going to know that Israel has a leadership, and the leadership has a policy, and that policy is zero tolerance.
So these attacks that Israel has been doing have been going on for quite a few years, but what's different now in the past few weeks is that the Prime Minister and other officials are actually acknowledging it right away, that policy of opacity is gone. And there is some fear that actually may not help. It might actually escalate things even further.
That concern, or I would say so-called concern, is a concern made by politicians. Because when we make a statement, and the statement is very cut and clear, then the world understands that we're not playing games. And we're not hiding anymore. And the policy is not decided by the Prime Minister because he woke up one day on a different side. There's a cabinet with the Chief of Staff, with all the security authorities of Israel, sitting there and decided this is what's right to do now. And when that's the situation, then Israel is not playing games. We are going to tell the world, we are now an independent state, and we know, and we're going to stand on our interests. No fooling with it.
On a somewhat, related topic, this week, Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, he stood by his claim that ISIS has been defeated. And Brett McGurk, the former envoy to the U.S.-led global coalition against ISIS, said that the U.S. has no plan for what's coming next, which increases the risks to the U.S. forces. But ISIS seems to be emboldened in Syria now. Could it be that this latest escalation between Iran and Israel is also because Iran now also feels emboldened after the U.S. decided to pull its troops out of Syria?
I sure hope so, because I think that ISIS is number one, and now Iran, which is like a strong independent state, and who feels free to announce that they're going to destroy Israel. And yes, we want them to get that message. And if the United States, who made that very important step of cutting down the deal, the so-called deal, which was going to allow Iran to develop its economy and its weapons, now the Americans did what they did, pulled out of the deal, and now Israel is protecting itself as a normal democratic state.
Okay, I want to move on to politics, domestic politics now.
You have to?
We have to. I know you love it. I know you love it. Come on. After months of harassment and intimidation from both sides of the political aisle, the man who has all of Israel's eyes on him, Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit, took the rare decision to speak to the press. The lengthy interview on Israel's news company with diplomatic correspondent Dana Weiss was aired on Saturday, as he is expected to announce whether he intends to indict Benjamin Netanyahu on corruption charges in the coming weeks or maybe months. Mandelblit said he understands the weight of responsibility placed on him, but that he is committed only to, quote, the truth, and that he won't buckle under the pressure.
The Prime Minister says it's a rigged game.
No, I only work professionally. I don't know what he's saying. I'm not paying attention to it.
It can't be that you don't know. You don't see what's written about you? What he says, what he claims?
I work only professionally. Only the evidence speaks. There's nothing else.
And what does the evidence say?
I draw the line here.
The Prime Minister was not happy about this interview, calling it unprecedented, and he accused Mandelblit of launching probes without hard evidence against him. Yehudah, do you have a problem with the Attorney General talking to the media like that?
I think we should, definitely politicians, but I think the press itself and also should not get involved in those decisions. I think the Attorney General is the Attorney General, and he sometimes made mistakes, but his decision has to be completely uncontaminated. It has to be completely pure. And he has to go to the evidence, read the evidence, and concentrate only on the evidence. I think.
You have faith in him?
I have faith in him. If we don't, look, the country has to continue, whether with
But you have
Netanyahu
faith in him that he will make the right decision, whatever it is.
I have to, because we don't have any other justice system. I don't think it was right on his side to go to the press. I think he should be working quietly in his room, and we should
was it right for the prime minister to attack him like he did afterwards?
I'm not crazy about the attacking him either. I think we should keep away from there. But I do think that we should allow him to do what he's doing as quiet as possible. But at the same time, he should take into consideration the fact that right now we're in the process of elections, and people are going to take advantage of whatever he says. So I'm not sure it was smart, but when I listened to what he said, he didn't say anything that was outstandingly. He said, "I'm going to go by the evidence."
So what made the prime minister so angry?
Because the fact that usually the attorney general, and that just like a judge, keeps quiet and doesn't front. Well, the very fact.
Let me see. It does seem like a pattern that the prime minister has when he appoints people. He appoints them himself. Like police chief Ronnie Al-Sheikh, he gets mad with him. He appoints Avichai Mendelblit.
I listened carefully to what the prime minister said. He didn't say he doesn't trust the attorney general. If you listen carefully, he said there's a lot of pressure from the press on the attorney general, which they're not going to tolerate a situation where he doesn't indict the prime minister.
Right.
And that's what he said. He did not say anything about supporting the attorney general. I can tell you something. The attorney general is a very serious and I think somebody that even the prime minister totally trusts him with many other things, and with this case he'll have to trust him as well.
He'll have to, but he doesn't, does he?
I think he, in general, he knows that the attorney general is doing the right thing, but he knows that there's pressure, and he thinks it was a mistake for the attorney general to go to the press, as it was a mistake, by the way, of Al-Sheikh. When was the big crisis with Al-Sheikh? When he ran to the press. If you run to the press, it means you have something like personal.
Maybe they run to the press because they feel like they're being targeted and they have to defend themselves.
Look,
they have to get their story out.
Every single judge in Israel goes under different kinds of criticism, and he knows that he doesn't talk to the press. You don't see any Supreme Judge Court talking to the press, even though they're attacked every single day.
Yeah.
And that's because that's where the things is. There's a very clear red line. You don't go to the press.
Let's talk about red lines. Let's talk about the press, because your party launched a campaign last week targeting some of Israel's top journalists known for challenging the prime minister, saying the headline of this campaign is, "They won't decide." I guess they won't decide his fate, I presume. Let's take a look at a video that the prime minister posted on his Facebook page today.
They won't decide. You'll decide. The Likud. In spite of it all, Netanyahu.
Netanyahu is the last option as far as I am concerned.
Part of the Israeli media has conspired against Netanyahu.
People working in the Israeli media did not vote for Netanyahu, for sure.
So you have on these major highways in Israel, these big posters with the faces of top journalists plastered, targeted by your party, Yehudah. Why is your party attacking the media?
First of all, you can criticize people. You can even criticize journalists. You can be surprised. Look, it's no secret that the media in Israel, for several years, I think this is going through a change in the last few years, but for several years, the leading journalists in the media in Israel were obsessively anti-Netanyahu, whatever he did. And they were obsessive against him. And now it's his turn to revenge. It's his turn to say, listen, they're not going to decide for you.
This is revenge.
And he's not talking to them.
This is revenge.
He's not talking to them. He's talking to the people. He says, listen, these are the people that appear in your living room every single week, weekend, every single evening. Yeah. These are the people that are obsessively talking against Netanyahu. And listen, it's you who are going to decide, not them. You make the decision, and you decide, and you look at what happened and what the government led in the last few years, and what wonderful job we did in security.
So you don't have a problem with this campaign at all whatsoever?
I don't have a problem. Look, I can't say that every single word I really identify with.
Okay.
As long as there's no delegitimization. If there's criticism, it's fine. That's what a democratic country is all about.
Right.
You can criticize.
And that falls into criticism.
I don't think there's a delegitimization.
Okay.
Maybe I would have used a little different terminology, but I think this is a reasonable campaign.
Okay, I want to talk about Benny Gantz, the former IDF chief of staff, who launched his campaign, and he's been posting some videos. Today he posted 3 videos, very different. Each one of them very, very different from each other. Let's look only 2 of them, because it's all the time we have. I want to start with the first one, which he talked about, where he talks about Gaza, and he boasts in his Facebook page about bombing this Gaza neighborhood back to the Stone Age. Let's take a look.
think this campaign was a crucial mistake on two levels. First of all, Gantz led what he did there in Gaza not as a politician. He led it as a chief of staff of the Israeli army. And to use what he did in the army and his political campaign is not very smart. And the other thing, which is more bothering for me, look, we're Israelis, we as Jews, our Jewish ethics, our morals, our values, we're not happy that we had to destroy these houses.
There he is kind of boasting about it, isn't he?
We were forced to do it, and that's why we go to the world and we say, listen, we don't like doing that. But they push us into a corner, they shoot missiles at our citizens, and we have no choice, and we have to go.
How do you see that? Why do you think his campaign made that decision
to do that? He's trying to reach the lowest level common denominator of Israelis who really feel an anger at the Gazians. Okay. But I think that's a crucial mistake. And on the other hand, back to the Likud, I think the Likud should continue leading a campaign with values, speaking about we have to be I say we have to be respect to the country and not involve the army in any part of our political campaign.
I want to show the other video that he put up today, which, as I said before, is very, very different. Let's take a look.
There's no shame in yearning for peace. There's no shame in striving for peace. Do we want to send our kids to fight in 25 years? No. But we might need to do it. Probably yes. And in 50 years? Probably yes. What will we tell them? That we did nothing? That we didn't try? That we didn't strive? That we didn't examine? I'm not prepared to have a generation without hope. Things could be different here.
How do you explain the very two different videos?
He's trying to show that there's no contradiction. But look,
he's also critiquing the prime minister that he's not doing anything on the diplomatic field.
First of all, when Gantz shot in Gaza, the prime minister was Netanyahu. So I don't mind that. But the second thing is, striving for peace is also Netanyahu. Really? Netanyahu has been begging for peace. The only problem is we didn't have a partner. We have the leading of the moderate Palestinian leadership who supports terror, the leading, and to go there and put out a campaign blaming us for not having peace, that's like joining the BDS. I don't like that. And I must say that we have to show that we want peace. There's nobody like us who wants peace. The Israeli government, Netanyahu, wants peace, but we're not going to give up and we're not going to surrender our security for peace. And that's the thing. We will not share with a partner who supports terror. We will not share with a partner who denies Holocaust and who encourages terror. That's not peace.
Okay.
And therefore, I think that, yes, we should strive for peace. We should know that we're forced to fight, but that's not something we boast about.